My name is Marin Eliana Crow, 33 years old. It started as a smell I didn't recognize, bitter and wrong, a few minutes before 4 a.m. I'd been dozing on the edge of sleep because Ava, our youngest, was running a fever, and Daniel had her tucked against his chest in the rocker. I remember him saying my name once, just once, and then the crackle moved down the hall like an animal that didn't need to breathe. Fire is louder than you think. It hisses and talks. It finds air where you thought there wasn't any. The next moments break into pictures more than time. My bare feet skidding, Daniel wrapping Ava in a damp towel, Mason clinging to my neck so hard my shoulder throbbed, the front door refusing to open for a heartbeat, and then giving in like it never mattered. We fell into the street wearing smoke and panic, sirens repeating themselves until language didn't. Across the street, a neighbor pressed a pair of mismatched socks into Mason's hands. Someone's teenage daughter draped a blanket around my shoulders. Hose water carved lines through glowing roof beams that folded like cardboard into themselves. I texted from the sidewalk because it felt like the lever you pull when everything else jams. Family group me. We're alive. We have nothing left. I sent it to everyone, my father, my mother, Daniel's parents, siblings, cousins, the people who come for holidays, and the ones who only come for photos. Then I waited for a ping that didn't come. A firefighter asked our names, ages, birth dates, facts that felt too clean for Ash. Daniel kept kissing Ava's hair between answers. Mason asked if the monsters would come back if we closed our eyes. 47 minutes later, the roof gave up and the sky changed color. I typed again on 8% battery. Me. House gone. We're in emergency shelter tonight. Kids safe. Call me. It's amazing what you can hear when no one says anything. Concrete can echo. Blankets rustle like they have opinions. My phone pulsed to tell me the battery was tired and the world was not. 2 hours after my first text, my father posted on Facebook. A beach photo. Him, my mother, two cousins squinting into sun in matching shirts like they were auditioning to be the postcard. The caption, "Can't beat family time. #blessed. #ocean view resort." Raid receipts don't lie. I watched 3 of them slide online and do nothing. That night, the shelter's cots creaked under other people's exhaustion. We slept in a row, Ava between us, Mason curled at my knees. The fluorescent lights clicked into nighttime mode like a promise no one believed. Daniel and I ate soup out of a plastic container and stared at the ceiling ducts, because it was easier than looking at each other and saying the word gone out loud. Grief didn't slam into me. It turned down to static. 3 days later, when my phone finally charged on a waiting room outlet, a text appeared from my mother. "Mom, glad you're all okay. Sorry, we were busy. Hope insurance covers it all. Things happen for a reason." I read it twice and felt nothing except the shape of the sentence "we were busy." Daniel saw my face, didn't ask, didn't need to. He traced circles on Ava's back until she fell asleep. A week passed like a slow bruise. Red Cross vouchers, a list of emergency housing, the brittle grace of strangers being kinder than your own blood. Daniel picked up remote IT gigs off borrowed Wi-Fi. I filled out forms until my name looked wrong. Mason lined up donated toy cars on the windowsill of a room that wasn't ours and asked when we were going home. "Soon," I lied. He nodded like the word could carry weight if you held it still enough. Then my phone started thrashing on a Tuesday afternoon. Buzz after buzz after buzz like a trapped insect. 94 missed calls, all from my father. One text. "Dad, send $6,000 or we're finished." No greeting, no question, not even a fake, "How are the kids?" I sat on the edge of the cot with the message lighting my face and realized something had cracked open in me when the roof did, and instead of trying to hold the pieces together for him, I was going to let them fall where they wanted. I didn't answer for 2 hours. I imagined him watching the typing bubble that never came, the way vultures circle when the road goes quiet. I fed Ava applesauce and watched Mason share the granola bar he didn't like with a boy who didn't like his either. I looked at Daniel, and he looked back with the same decision already made in his eyes. I typed slowly, like truth should be deliberate. "Me, we're still in a shelter. You ignored us. You'll get nothing." 5 minutes later, "Dad, I told you years ago you were on your own. Last chance, Marin. Don't push it." Daniel was working a knot out of Mason's hair with his fingers. I handed him the phone. He didn't flinch. "Good," he said, calm as a lake. "Let him rot." We ping-ponged between hotel vouchers and community centers for 2 more weeks. The kids got quieter in the way children do, when they think noise makes grown-ups break. I heard my voice say, "We're okay enough times to know it was for them, not me." On a Sunday, my cousin Bethany DM'd me a photo of her new kitchen backsplash. White marble tiled to the ceiling, heart emojis lined up like pearls. She didn't ask if we needed anything. I stared at the picture until something inside me made an unfamiliar sound that might have been a laugh. They knew, every one of them. The fire was public, tagged by neighbors, shared by the PTA, and they didn't call. They probably scrolled past our house like you scroll past a headline you don't want to think about. Or worse, talked about us at somebody's breakfast buffet. Such a shame. Thank God we're fine. On the fourth day after that, an old college friend started a GoFundMe without asking. He said sorry in the caption. The number jumped like a heart monitor. $12,200, $9,600, $22,000 in 4 days. That's when my family remembered we existed. Aunt Debbie sent a text novella about drifting apart and the door is always open. My father called. I let it ring. The next morning. Dad, I hear you got a big donation. Grandma's not well. We might need to chip in for medical. Be a grown-up. Step up. Maybe it was the phrase, be a grown-up. Maybe it was picturing Grandma, the only person in that family who ever tucked an extra steadying hand into yours, being used as a lever. Maybe it was every time I'd been told I was too sensitive for noticing the math of love never added up. They only remember us when there's money, Daniel said. He was right. We found a cheap studio with a door that locked, mattresses on the floor, a hot plate that wanted to be a stove, and a window that believed in morning. It wasn't much. It was ours. 2 months later, Grandma died. Peacefully, they said, in her sleep. The funeral was invite only. We weren't invited. The next day, my mother texted, "Thought it'd be too hard for you all to come. She left a little something for everyone. You're in the will. Call your father." Mason cried when we told him. He loved her. She used to sneak him gumdrops behind my father's back like kindness could be contraband. I called the lawyer instead. He sounded like a man who kept his desk clean because paper didn't lie the way people did. Grandma had left $300,000 divided into 4, $75,000 to me, the rest to Dad, Aunt Debbie, Uncle Greg. He cleared his throat before he said the next part. My father had already contacted him, trying to convince him I'd waived my share. The lawyer didn't fall for it. He said the money would be released in a few weeks and that it might be wise to keep my distance for now. Daniel nodded when I told him. "They'll come crawling," he said quietly. "Watch." 3 days later, my father appeared outside our building for the first time in his life. He didn't text. He didn't call. He stood near the buzzer like leverage had a posture. I watched through the blinds while he pressed the button 5 times. My phone lit. "Dad, I'm outside. Let's talk like adults. It's your duty to the family." I turned the phone off and went back to the floor where Mason was sliding puzzle pieces into the wrong spaces on purpose and laughing. "Was it him?" Daniel asked without looking up. "Yeah." "Don't open the door," he said. I didn't. He left after 20 minutes. Aunt Debbie was next. An email with a subject line like a Valentine. "Let's heal together." Inside, a spreadsheet of family expenses Grandma would have wanted me to cover. Her son's student loans, Bethany's therapy, and a reimbursement request for their Aspen Christmas in 2021 meant to include everyone. I read it out loud. Daniel laughed first. Then I did. A week later, the wire hit. $75,000. And we moved quietly into a small 2-bedroom where cinnamon rolls could make a real kitchen smell like the opposite of smoke. Daniel assembled Mason's bed with an Allen wrench and a prayer. Ava slept through the night for the first time in months. I thought the worst part was over. Then I learned what happens when someone decides your survival is an insult. The money hit on a Tuesday, quiet as a sigh, $75,000. No confetti, just a confirmation email and the sound of Daniel unsnapping a tape measure so we could prove to ourselves a twin bed would fit against the far wall. We didn't tell the kids. Mason only knew that the cinnamon roll smell belonged to our kitchen now, not a shelter cafeteria, and that his new bed didn't fold. For 3 days, the world behaved. Ava slept, a little queen in a flannel kingdom. Daniel took on extra client tickets, the kind that paid by the hour and by the patients. I learned how to speak to insurance adjusters without apologizing for existing. Then the begging arrived all at once, like a storm that had been waiting just outside town. Jacob, my cousin, who once told me, "Tough it out," the day after the fire, sent a 1-line email with his routing number. Anything helps. Grandma would have wanted us to support each other. That same afternoon, Melissa, Daniel's sister, who hadn't called since the night of the flames, rang from a number I didn't recognize. Her voice was already crying when I answered. It's crypto, she said, as if she were confessing to a hurricane. We're losing the apartment, just a few thousand to tide us. Marin, please. I stared at the window, at the honest rectangle of winter light on our table. I can't help you, I said. Daniel took the phone gently from my hand. We can't, he repeated, and hung up. The subtweets came next like mosquitoes. Bethany posting about people who hit the grief lottery and forget their roots. Jacob writing, money doesn't change people. It reveals them. My father telling mutuals I was hoarding blood money. My thumb hovered over reply and then set the phone down because sometimes dignity is just not typing. I told myself not to check a dozen times. I checked anyway. I watched likes collect under words that pretended to be about values and were just about access. I almost made it to the end of the week without cracking, then my father found a new door to knock on. Mason's tablet pinged with a video message from a contact I'd never saved. Hey, buddy! My father's face filled the screen, the camera slightly low like he hadn't figured out how to hold it. It's Grandpa. I know your mom's confused right now, but maybe you can talk to her for us. Mason froze the frame. Our son has my eyebrows. Too honest to hide. Can we block him? He asked. Yes, I said, and we did. That night, Daniel looked at me across the table with the vow we'd been slowly building since we stepped onto that sidewalk shoeless. Don't give them a cent, he said. I won't, I said, and felt how deeply I meant it. 2 mornings later, a thick white envelope was sitting on our doormat like it had grown there. No return address. My name in black marker I recognized from old Christmas tags where he wrote Princess until I asked him to stop. Inside, a photograph of Grandma in her hospital bed. Breathing tube. Eyes closed. Frail, but still here. On the back, in the same heavy hand. You should have been there. Daniel found me holding it like a thing that might bruise if I squeezed. He didn't ask who. He knew. He slid it from my fingers and put it in a drawer with the instruction manuals for appliances we hadn't bought yet. They're not done, he said. I know. The video arrived that afternoon, from an unlisted number. Shot shaky from across the street, it zoomed slowly toward our second-floor window, like a mouth opening. A man's voice, not my father's, not anyone I could place, whispered, "Enjoy it while it lasts." The radiator clanked at the same moment. I flinched anyway. I realized it then. This wasn't about money. Money was the tool. The project was punishment. We had broken a rule, survive without permission, and they needed us to feel sorry for it. I stared at our door as if I could watch resolve latch itself. We changed the numbers on our phones. We locked down the school pickup list, double-signed forms, gave the office photos of every adult allowed to say the kids' names. We ordered cheap security cameras and pointed them at the hallway because paranoia is just practice in some neighborhoods. I wanted it to be enough. I wanted to believe we could build a life by adding locks and subtracting invitations. But punishment is creative when it's bored. 2 days later, the hospital called about our flu, follow-up for Mason. The intake nurse paused at her screen. Just a moment, she said. Your insurance is showing a duplicate profile created recently. Parent, Gregory Crow. My uncle. He'd created a shadow chart under Mason's name to see our records, to watch our life like it was a show he wasn't paying for. Daniel stood so fast his chair knocked into the wall. We're done running, he said. He wasn't talking about new passwords. He meant we were going to tell the truth out loud. That night, we sat on the couch and did the small, brave thing most people avoid because it looks impolite. We wrote it all down. Then we sent it. Not to the family, to the people around them. Daniel drafted the timelines like an engineer. The fire, the group chat, the silence, the "we were busy," the $6,000 text, the GoFundMe, the sudden rediscovery of their son when the number hit $22,000, the inheritance, the show at our buzzer, the spreadsheets of family expenses, the whispering posts, the video to our child, the photo on our doormat, the stalker clip from across the street, the duplicate insurance file. I edited for clarity, the kind that doesn't look angry so people actually read it. We attached screenshots. We included dates. We removed adjectives that made it about our feelings so it would stay about their actions. We pressed send to employers, church deacons, a book club moderator, an HOA president, 2 PTA heads, and 3 people who had once told me they believe in accountability until it moves in next door. We didn't lie, we didn't embellish, we didn't ask for anything. We ended each message with a single line. This is who they are, and this is what they did. The world answered, slowly at first, like a machine warming up. My father was removed from the church finance committee, pending review. Aunt Debbie announced on Instagram that her yoga studio would be closing for a restorative pause. Bethany made her profile private. Jacob posted a story about cancel culture and then deleted it when someone in his comments asked about the Aspen reimbursement. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt even. For the first time in months, I didn't dream in smoke. Then a letter arrived with a court seal so clean I could see our ceiling lamp reflected in it. A petition has been filed to dispute the division of assets within the estate of Mr. Crow, deceased. Filed by Gregory Crow, Deborah Reeves, and Thomas Crow, Sr. They wanted my share, all of it. The grounds, estrangement, emotional instability, undue influence. It would have been funny if it didn't come with a docket number. We hired a lawyer from the kind of firm that puts the partner's last name on the door and keeps a candy bowl across from the copier like a mercy. Clara Eng read the petition, skimmed our emails, and leaned back. They're bluffing, she said, but they'll file and file until you bleed. We didn't bleed. We learned. We documented. We gave Clara everything. The emails, the screenshots, the shadow insurance chart ID, the door camera footage of Bethany staging a stroller scene in our hallway. Then their side made a mistake that wasn't a typo. It was a confession. During mandatory disclosure, opposing counsel attached a group chat screenshot meant to prove I'd alienated myself years ago. In the middle of it, nestled like a rotten pearl, was a thread between Deborah and Bethany about the hospital photo. Bethany, let's spook them a little. He deserves it. Clara smiled for the first time since we'd met her. It changed her face. Game over, she said, and filed a motion so sharp the clerk probably cut their finger on it. They folded. No settlement, no apology. Silence again, the kind that thinks it's a strategy. 2 days later, my father waited outside my office as if ambush could glamorize need. He looked smaller in the winter light. Your mother's sick, he said before I could walk past. We need help. I know you have the money. You tried to erase me, I said. You don't get to ask me to write you back in. I'm still your father, he said, like a password. Not anymore, I said, and got in my car. Under the windshield wiper, an envelope with my name. Inside, a 1998 tuition invoice, $6,040, my freshman year, stamped paid by Thomas Crow. No note, no anything. Just the number, like he'd waited 25 years to hand me a receipt for parenting. I took it home. Daniel struck a match in the sink and held the corner until flame curled the paper into itself. Now you're even, he said. For a week, the quiet felt like something we could live on. Then the phone rang from a Vermont area code, and an old Will woke up. The call came at 8:17 a.m. on a Thursday, a time when the world should have still been too sleepy for bad news. A clipped New England voice introduced himself as Andrew Miller, probate attorney for the estate of Eleanor Vance. I almost hung up. I didn't know any Eleanor Vance. Then he said, she listed you as sole beneficiary. I sat down. There must be a mistake. No mistake, Ms. Crow. Miss Vance was your grandmother's sister. She left a modest fortune, plus a letter addressed to you. By lunch, $225,000 had appeared in my account. No ceremony, no strings, just a note in careful cursive scanned into an email. To Marin Crow, someone I believe won't waste it. Daniel read it twice, then set the printout on the table like it was radioactive. He didn't smile. He didn't have to. His silence said what I was already thinking. They're going to lose their minds, he whispered. They did. My father must have heard within 48 hours. A voicemail came from a number I hadn't blocked yet, his voice thin and furious. You're playing dangerous games, Marin. You think you're above us now? The next morning, Melissa, Daniel's sister, was waiting outside the school. Not for Daniel, for Mason. She crouched beside him as he left the building, pretending to tie her shoe. Tell your mom, she said softly, that family shares. The teacher noticed the wrong last name on the pickup sheet and called us immediately. Daniel's hands shook all the way to the station. We filed the report, our third in as many months. Enough, I said when we got home. We're sealing every door. He nodded, and that night he took what remained of the first inheritance and the entire second and placed it somewhere no one could touch. A private family trust in the kids' names. Not a flashy foundation, not a revenge fund. Just a vault labeled future. When the last signature dried, he said quietly, "Now it's safe from all of them, even us." It wasn't about money anymore. It was about oxygen, about building a world where their smoke couldn't reach. 2 weeks later, Karma decided to borrow a microphone. One of my old college friends, Nora, ran a small podcast about ordinary people surviving extraordinary cruelty. She'd heard bits of our story from mutual friends. No names, she promised, just patterns. People will relate. Daniel hesitated, but I said yes. We sat in her studio, a rented office with peeling wallpaper and a microphone that caught every heartbeat. I told the story straight. The fire, the silence, the text, the inheritance, the stalking. Nora didn't interrupt. She just let the pauses breathe. She released the episode 2 weeks later. It didn't stay small. Some stranger online recognized the shape of our story, the exact GoFundMe numbers, the backsplash photo Bethany had bragged about, even the probate filings still cached in public records. Within days, our anonymous story wasn't anonymous anymore. People connected the dots, tagged names, screenshotted posts, then they dug. The internet did what the justice system never could. Old Facebook posts resurfaced. My father's blood money rant, Bethany's grief lottery caption, my aunt's Aspen reimbursement email. They spread like mold on sunlight. Comments turned. Sponsors pulled from Aunt Debbie's yoga studio. My father was removed from his HOA board for behavior unbecoming. Jacob lost his job after HR discovered the insurance record stunt. And Bethany's new fiancé, the one who'd believed every sob story, quietly deleted every photo of her, then closed his account. For the first time, silence came from them. No texts, no calls, just digital craters where entitlement used to live. Then, late one night, a group message lit up Daniel's phone. Not mine. It was from my mother. "Congratulations, you win. You poisoned our family. Hope the money keeps you warm." Daniel read it, handed me the phone, and blocked the number without asking. Neither of us said anything for a while. Then he exhaled and said, "Warmth isn't from money, it's from peace." He was right, but peace has a strange quiet after so much noise. Months passed. We stopped looking over our shoulders. Mason joined a robotics club. Ava started painting. Daniel fixed up an old bike for the commute. I built a small online business making personalized science kits for kids. Curiosity boxes, we called them. Sometimes the mail still made me flinch, but mostly it was bills, catalogs, and the kind of junk that proves you exist. The house smelled like cinnamon again. Normal was starting to trust us. Then one Thursday, I opened the mailbox and froze. No stamp, no return address, just my name, Marin, written in a hand I hadn't seen since I was a teenager. The letters trembled slightly, like the writer's hand had aged with guilt. Inside was a single sheet of paper, blue ink, slanted script. They told me not to reach out, said you changed, but I've been watching quietly. You did what I couldn't. You broke the cycle. I'm proud of you. Grandma Ruth, P.S. There's something hidden in the attic of my old house. I don't trust them to find it. I read it 3 times. Ruth, my mother's mother, the one who'd gone silent decades ago when my parents took over every narrative. I didn't even know she was still alive. The house she mentioned had been sold 2 years ago, handled by Aunt Debbie herself. We thought it was long gone. Daniel looked at the letter, then at me. His eyes held the same mix of exhaustion and curiosity that started everything. "What do you think it is?" he asked. "I don't know," I said, but she waited until now for a reason. He folded the paper carefully, slid it back into the envelope, and tucked it in his jacket pocket. "Then we'll find out," he said. "Tomorrow. Tomorrow we drive back to the town we left behind, to a house that doesn't belong to us, to an attic that might still remember who did what to whom. I don't know what's waiting up there. Proof, revenge, maybe forgiveness. But after all this time, after every flame and silence and inheritance, one thing finally feels certain. Whatever is in that attic, it's the last secret my family will ever keep."